we will also take you through the expanded study with a special track for organizations with 100 to 500 employees and MSMEs, its salient features, and the process. I'm very happy to welcome Anjuji Parvati, Vice President, Research and Solutions at Avtar, to share with us the details of the one-of-a-kind exercise, The Best Companies for Women in India Emerging Icons. Anju will take us through the highlights of the exercise that is sought after by companies across industries to understand and redirect their DI journeys.
Thank you, Shabana, for the very warm introduction. Very good evening, everyone. It's an honor to host this session, kickstart this session with a preview of what the best companies for women in India study holds. We are all eagerly awaiting the panel discussion. We have the speakers logged in already. Ahead of that, let me quickly take you through the contours of the study and what this track of the best companies for women in India study holds. Give me a minute while I bring up my presentation. So the best companies for women in India this year, for the very first time, we have announced a separate track for the emerging enterprises, this micro, small, and medium enterprises in the country, MSMEs, and companies which are on the emerging track, which have fewer than 500 employees in their India operations. So this webinar is going to address the emerging enterprises specifically. But I will walk you through the best companies for women in India study and its legacy as well, and what led us on to instituting a separate track for the emerging icons. So the study, Best Companies for Women in India, BCWI, as we fondly call it, was instituted in partnership with Seramount by Avtar in the year 2016. So Seramount is a strategic professional services firm committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion based out of New York, USA, formerly called Working Mother Media. And they have been running a study to identify 100 best companies for women in the US for 38 years. So in 2016, when Avtar joined hands with Seramount to launch the study in India, the study had already completed 30 years in 2016. Avtar, as you know, is India's premier diversity, equity, and inclusion solutions firm. We are 24 years old. Our solutioning around diversity, equity, and inclusion is steeped in research. We have created several diversity firsts for the country, including India's first ever recorded program for women on career breaks, recruitment program for women on career breaks, which is India's first second career program and India's first diversity job portal. And now, India's first exclusive listing of best companies for women in the emerging enterprises category. We have worked with over 300 organizations evangelizing the concepts of diversity, equity, and inclusion over the past 2 decades. And about the BCWI, again, the legacy of the study has, as I mentioned earlier, was launched in 2016, successfully completed 8 editions between 2016 and 2023. We have had over 300 companies participate. And it is a metric-rich study. Some of you who are part of this webinar today are already aware of some of the nuances of the study. So it is a very data-intensive, data-comprehensive exercise where we collate data matrices and gender diversity matrices across a broad spectrum. The study results in or culminates in the listing of the 100 best companies and the top 10 companies, which are chosen based on the data and information shared by way of policy impact as part of the applications. The best companies are listed alphabetically, and the study also creates India's largest best practices repository when it comes to gender inclusion. The winners are honored and celebrated at the best practices of the 100 Best Conference, which is India's largest DEI conclave. Chennai is home to the conference. The conference is in its eighth edition this particular year. So that's broadly what BCWI has been in the past, but very proud and happy to share that the study has undergone evolution over the years. And the most recent evolution is the introduction of the new track for emerging enterprises, which are companies either with fewer than 500 employees in their Indian operations or are registered MSMEs in India. The broad study contours and the segments that the study covers include the following segments, 7 segments, questions around workforce profile. So, how was gender diversity distributed in the organization? What does women in leadership look like? How are your hiring ratios, attrition ratios, promotion ratios, etc.? How do they look like? Right? So every application form and every company that applies to the study completes the standardized application form as all these 7 segments. So the profile segment is all about that. The recruitment, retention, advancement segment is around policies and programs like programs for women on career breaks, mentoring programs, networks and groups that are created for women employees, leadership training programs, and all of these programs which basically help in creating equitable and intentional career paths for women. Safety and security. So, as we are all aware, in India, we have a mandate to address and prevent workplace sexual harassment. So, this segment gets into questions around how is POSH, prevention of workplace sexual harassment, addressed in a workplace, and what are the sensitization programs that are run, how can employees raise complaints and grievances, etc. A segment around flexible work where we broadly explore the kind of flexible work and support systems that an organization offers. Parental leave and parental benefits is where we look into the different types of parental leave that an organization offers: maternity, paternity, and adoption leave, and the various benefits and support systems attached to the same. In benefits and work life programs, our 6th segment, we go deeper into support systems that organizations have towards child care, towards elder care, towards self care, and so on. The final segment is around culture and management accountability. And here is where we get into questions around how leadership demonstrates their commitment, how are managers trained to champion diversity, and so on. So, this is the broad layout and the broad framework that the Best Companies for Women in India study follows. The framework remains the same for both tracks of the study. So, the track where we have companies more than 500 with more than 500 employees applying, as also the track that we are today addressing, which is the emerging enterprises. So, as I mentioned earlier, these are the 2 tracks in the study. So, this year, for the very first time in track 1, which is for companies with more than 500 employees in their Indian operations, we are going to have industry-specific listing. So, we will have industry-specific categories like best companies in consulting, best companies GCC, best companies in IT, manufacturing, retail, FMCG, and so on. Top 10 companies across all these industries will be listed as an industry agnostic list. This is what is applicable to track 1 for companies with more than 500 employees in your Indian operations. Companies between 100 to 500 employees in Indian operations are the ones that we are referring to as emerging enterprises or companies which are registered MSMEs in India. So for the very first time this year, we have launched this track, the track 2, which is Best Companies for Women in India, Emerging Icons. So as I mentioned, the application framework remains the same, and it is only companies which satisfy either of these conditions, which is either 100 to 500 employees or a registered MSME in India, that is eligible to apply towards track 2 of BCWI. What are the highlights of BCWI? The participation in the study is absolutely free. There is no investment of money upfront that is involved. Of course, there is investment of time and effort of culling together data and matrices that the application form requires. We will not be naming companies that participate but do not feature in the list. So we're not going to name companies outside the list anywhere. Customized reports. So this is a very important aspect that a study like this provides. So this year we hope we are able to provide benchmarks and reference points, customized benchmarking reports for companies in the small and medium segment. Right. So benchmarking very specifically to your industry scale, etc., is something that will be made available. These reports have commercials attached to them. You can procure these reports and we produce these reports on order. No perceptual employee survey. So the study is strictly an employer exercise. It is the HR team or if there is a DI team, that team that is required to collate data and matrices. There is no employee survey that we run. The best companies, both in the emerging icons track and in track 1, are going to be listed alphabetically. There is no ranking that is going to be made public. But every company that participates will get a free scorecard indicating your ranking and your position in the universe of applicants. Of course, maintaining a corporate reputation and demonstrating your DI commitment is something that the study will enable should you be listed as a winner in this year based on the data and application that you submit. In track 1, we are going to have industry-specific recognition. So that's spotlighting. So within your industry, you are an organization that is committed to women's employment and gender diversity, something that we will spotlight. And of course, for the very first time, recognition for MSMEs and emerging enterprises for their bold commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion is something that the study will enable. Repeating a few points here, we will not have any employee perceptual survey. BCWI is free. It is not a pay to participate study, and all ranks will remain completely confidential to the team that submits the data and to the leadership team of the company once the results are ready. The public listing is strictly alphabetical in nature, so it's not a public ranking. I spoke of most of these points here, reiterating this aspect that the scorecard with the ranks. So if you are participating in track 2 in the emerging icons track, your scorecard will be very specific to the application that we receive, applications that we receive for track 2. And this scorecard will remain completely confidential to the team that is corresponding with us and the company's leadership team, and it can be used for refining your strategy towards engaging with women talent. Access to what are some more benefits? Access to corporate India's largest diversity benchmarking platform. So the fact that you're participating in this large study. So in track 2, we have close to 100 questions in the application form. So a lot of diversity matrices and benchmarks are bound to emerge. So access to that platform is something that every participating organization will have. And learning from the best-in-class companies. So in every customized report that we provide, we will also include a best practices compendium, which will include best practices from companies at scale, from similar sized companies as well. So how do you actually absorb some of those best practices and adapt it to your org context is something that we can do. Creating data rigor and discipline in monitoring DI matrices. So if you need to know what should be there on a leader's dashboard when it comes to managing gender diversity, right? Then this participating in this study and using the BCWI application form will set that data rigor, will help you create that dashboard of matrices that you should be monitoring and tracking. In the event that you emerge a winner this year, positive employer branding as a diversity friendly company is a very important benefit. In terms of the participation process, we have a simple registration form, which is expression of interest. You can log into our website and register your interest on the registration form. Well, once we receive your registration, we move you on to the next stage, which is confirmation of participation, which is a commitment letter that is e-signed and declared. It covers all the confidentiality clauses and clauses related to the study modalities. For example, the fact that the public listing is strictly alphabetical in nature. Similarly, all data that is shared by way of application is going to be stored in extremely secure and confidential environment. So all of that is what the COP document consists of. So signing this undertaking. And the third step is when we share the application copy, a copy with questions, 100 odd questions and track 2 across all the 7 segments that I spoke about earlier. Will be shared. We will share it in an Excel format for every applicant company to collate data, put it together and share. But the final submission will have to be made via an online encrypted link that the team will share. The password will be made known only to the SPOC. And very happy to also share that the track 2 timeline for companies to participate in the emerging icons track of best companies for women in India has been further extended to July 15th, 2024. Some FAQs, these are questions that we get asked quite a lot when it comes to, best companies form. We don't have data tracked for certain questions. Can we skip over? So our recommendation is, yes, wherever data is available, please provide accurate data, but wherever data is absolutely not available, please look at reasonable best estimates, right? Because what gets measured gets managed, and what gets reported is what gets evaluated in the context of BCWI. The second aspect, the online application link. So how flexible is that? Can we log out after partially filling in the data on the link? Will data be saved? So all of this will be taken care of from a logistics point of view. My team will support you through the entire process. We have a partial saving mechanism as well. So all 100 questions need not be filled in one sitting or one sequence. You can save partially, come back and fill in, etc. You can use the Excel sheet as your worksheet to collate all the information and data. So we have some subjective anecdotal evidence towards impact of a policy. How do we represent? So our best recommendation is that wherever qualitative data is available, please map it to quantitative elements that the form seeks, and basis that look at, if there is a multiple choice question, for example, right? It's a data intensive form, as I mentioned earlier. Please look at all the options very clearly. If you do not understand a particular definition or a particular option that we have given for an MCQ, please circle back with us. We will help you understand and demystify it. Should all policies that you quote be necessarily from policies in your rule books? So while these are all structured practices that we are looking at, some of them, for example, a mentoring program might be a practice, which is a structured practice in your organization, right? There need not be a policy around it. You can still account as long as there is a guideline around it and there is a mechanism to track and monitor employee usage around these programs. What happens when we do not answer a particular question? That question is not considered for scoring. So there is no score assigned to that question. There is no negative marking or penalty. So that's another question we get asked a lot. Is there some data validation that we should do before we submit our application? Yes, because it's a data intensive form. Please look at the basic business rules that the form is expected to adhere to. For example, your total employee count has to tally to to your female count and male count across all levels, for example, right? So that is something that we would request you to pay attention to. Our policies are not biased towards women. We offer them to all employees. Can we account these policies in the form? Yes, you can account these policies in the form. So an inclusive policy framework is what we are looking at. For example, if you have a creche facility, right, that is applicable to all employees and not only to women employees. Even while the mandate and the legislation in the country makes it open only to women, necessitates it only for women. You may have it for all employees, and that is ideal. So you can definitely report a yes, even if it is not something that's applicable exclusively. Will you accept offline submissions? This is a strict no from us. The online submission, the final submission will have to be made through the online application link, encrypted link that we share, and offline submissions will not be entered. Before we close, I just wanted to leave you with this thought of why diversity, equity, and inclusion for small enterprises, emerging enterprises, right? So it is because emerging enterprises, I think, are the closest to the local communities. You have the power to influence and change a lot of local dynamics. So it is very important that organizations emerging and organizations at this scale are committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. There are a few case studies and examples of benefits that companies have experienced, and there is multiple data that has emerged both from a global point of view as also from a local India data point of view in terms of how diversity, equity, and inclusion benefits smaller enterprises. Innovation, I think multiple research studies have clearly established that when you have diverse perspectives, people from different backgrounds, they are going to help you with innovation in product strategy, which in turn helps you penetrate into new markets, address new customer segments. A very interesting example is from this brand Hummy, which is an ice cream brand, and which actually decided to pool in team members' favorites to create flavors, and hence they were able to expand the flavor category. So that's a clear case for innovation. Employee satisfaction. So when you are committed to DEI, your benefits, your programs are all refined through an employee lens, which leads to better employee morale, job satisfaction, and retention. Quick example from a company named Patagonia. All these are enterprises which are emerging and which are scaling up. So the company's commitment, includes comprehensive benefits and work-life balance initiatives, all of which are aimed at ensuring employee well-being, which in turn results in better employee satisfaction. The fact that DI fosters greater collaboration and trust is something that has been established multiple times in the past. So the customer connect, right? Not only if you're running a B2B business or a B2C business, connecting with the customer or the client is super crucial and important. So DI-driven engagement boosts that customer connect and helps amp the brand reputation and loyalty. Increased agility, right? Because you're more responsive to changes around you, because you have diverse people working for you. You are committed to the needs of diversity talent, and hence you are more agile and responsive to everything that is happening around you. And as an outcome, you become more competitive as an organization and gain that competitive edge. With that, I end my segment around the best companies for women in India study, emerging icons track. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. If there is anything that has come up in the chat window, happy to address them. Or if you have further questions, I'll be here logged into the webinar. I can take the questions along the way if they are to come in the chat window.
Moving on to the Power Pact panel discussion on winning with gender diversity, the best companies wait, with the companies from the 100 best. It's a pleasure to have Chandra Kumar S., VP, Head of HR, Molecular Connections, a naval veteran, innovative and resourceful human resource professional with 17 plus experience in leadership positions, managing the entire HR gambit from a hire to retire in a fast-paced, high-growth, complex ITES startups to SMEs, supporting operations in India, US, UK, and Asian geographies. At Molecular Connections, he leads technology-driven content operations, empowering life science innovations through informatics solutions across a spectrum, collaborating with major pharmaceutical companies and research institutions. Up next, we welcome Maitri Tembe, PTC Software, Senior Principal HR Business Partner. From heavy adventure like mountain climbing to exotic road drives, she has done it all around the Indian subcontinent. In between her travels, she obtained degrees in psychology, English, literature, and management. She is also a certified mountaineering instructor from the very prestigious Himalayan Mountaineering Institute, Darjeeling. While her passion has taken her places, her career has spanned over 16 years with exposure to various industries and geographies in companies like Maersk, Benetton Coleman, Ferraro India, Suzlon in the field of, and now PTC in human resources brand, CSR, DEI, internal, and corporate communications. The third panelist for the day is Mimansa Popet, Vice President, Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Lead, City India and Indian Subcontinent and MEA. Mimansa is the DI lead for City India and Indian Subcontinent and MEA. She has spent the early part of her career with Wipro Limited and Star India Private Limited in various HR partnering, performance management, and diversity and inclusion roles before joining Citi in 2019 as the HR generalist for its retail operations and commercial banking business. Mimansa has held various roles in her 5+ years at Citi, including HR advisory roles for global functions and leading DEI for the APAC region before taking up the MEA DEI lead role. The moderator for the panel discussion is Mr. Karthik Egambaram, Executive Vice President and Director, DEI Solutions at Avtar, a diversity and inclusion specialist who has completed several seminal projects successfully for various organizations. With over 19 years of experience in business analysis, talent strategy, and workforce diversity consulting, Karthik has devised flexible working policies and created diversity-ready workplaces for several Fortune 500 organizations. Karthik has also co-authored several papers that have been published in journals of national and international repute. He has been conferred with the Diversity Leadership Award by World HRD Congress. As the discussion happens, you can share your queries in the chat window. The panelists will answer them for you. Over to you, Karthik.
Thank you, Shabana, and thank you, Anju, for setting the context today and taking us through the best companies for Women India Study. Specifically, talking about the options and the opportunities for the companies, the emerging, we call them the emerging icons, the emerging enterprises who are really starting off on their DI journey. And we really wanted to do a program with respect to the topic today, which is winning with diversity, equity, and inclusion in emerging enterprises. We thought it'd be good to have experts who have done that, continue doing this, and have been very successful. And there's a lot of learning for them in all these years that they have actually pursued DI. And therefore, we thought it'd be great to have our three amazing speakers today who will be sharing their own personal experiences of driving DEI as DI experts, as HR professionals, as leaders, taking care of DI as part of their role in the larger context of the work that they do. But we'll also be very happy to hear from them, their learning in terms of what they have done in their organizations as well. They represent, Mimansa represents City, Maitri represents PTC Software, and Chandil represents Molecular Connections. And they're truly outstanding organizations. And they have been part of the best company study for so many years, and I've actually, if I remember right, for more than 5 years, they've actually featured in the Best Company Study. So we call them the Hall of Fame. It's a delight to have you all three here. The reason that we have also sort of invited you here to just give a context, Maithili, Mimans, and Sendil, is that while we're going to talk about the emerging enterprises, right? The best way to learn is learn from people who have actually done this. Right, you see, the learning curve is that much more quicker. We don't need to travel the journey that you have traveled, right? And how much can we learn from you in terms of liking the journey, whoever it is at whatever stage, is that much more easier for them? Is that much more simpler? When I say the word simpler, right? We all know how DI does. It's not easy. There's so many challenges out there. We are talking about diversity in all forms and shapes and personalities and behavior, and the industry as well. And therefore, each of you would be sharing your own perspective, not just from the organization, right? From currently that you're representing. I see there is a wonderful mix. Sendil, I think you bring that you're from the Navy as well. So again, a very different perspective, work in fintech companies, legal tech companies. Mimansa, again, you worked, I think, with Wipro, Disney, formerly Disney, Star, now Sydney, Disney, and Maitri again, experiences across different sectors, right? From the Times to Maersk, which is shipping, chocolate company, renewable energy. I think that's a good mix that we're going to have, and I'm going to have some wonderful conversations from each of you. So with that, I'm going to start the conversation and the discussion actually to look at what does DI mean to each one of you here, right? And then let's open it to very generic conversation, but allowed to, I'm sure you're going to get some very interesting perspective from each of you, different perspective. I would like to request Sendil to start. Over to you, Sendil.
Thank you, Karthik. Thank you, Shabana and you for giving this opportunity. It's been a pleasant ride all these years, right? 6 successive years learning what DEI is, and then implementing, gaining informations from the applications, what we fill, what the benchmark reports that we get from Avtar. This has tremendously improved us from what we are to what we are right now, what we were and what we are right now, right? Being successfully in the top 100 for the 6 successive years, right? It's not only, it means a lot for Molecular Connection as an organization. And it was a real great learning experience to Chandil as an individual, right? So when I look back and when I look now, from year on year, that the improvement that we have gone through, or the changes that we have brought in, it's more what you call that has helped our organization to reach the level what it is right now, right? It's all I would say, with proud, I would say it's because of this DEI implementation, right? It's got embedded as a part of our DNA now, right? We strive to provide environment that's welcoming and supportive to everyone. Some of the challenges or some of the tangible changes that I could feel is like it has given us an immense reputation, and we maintain a better position in attracting and retaining the talent. So that is something that we were lacking, and now we are there to be in the spot where people reach out to us, especially I would say the women employees or women candidates, right? They reach out to us, and from when I look back, where we have an average tenure of 1.5 to 2 years, now the average tenure has increased to 6 years. So it's a tremendous change that this DA has brought in, right? And it gives with the perspective of stats that we get from Avtar, right, and which has helped us in reframing the policies to give a sustained engagement platform, and to improve the productivity, right, which is and be it while fostering the equity, be it compensation or benefit, be it promotion, be it your cross-functional training or advancement. So equal opportunity, it's totally based on performance. Nowhere it's biased, nowhere it's gender related. It's all, if you perform, you win. So that has become our culture now. And finally, and not holistically, our communication channel has improved, which has become more inclusive than it was before. So these are some of the tangible things that I felt by embracing this DEA concept. I don't want to prolong it more. We have other three panelists who have much to say. So thank you, Karthik. I just leave it to the others to take
Thank
it.
you. Thank you, Sandil. I think we would love to hear more from you and others. Like one thing that you mentioned is about how do you make it as the DNA, part of the DNA of your organization, right? And that is going to be something that we need to really see and how we can really do that. And that's going to be very interesting for those organizations, right? Inculcating and making it part of your organizational ethos, cultures, and value is going to be very critical for the DI to sustain, and that is something that we will more discuss as we go on. Maitri, over to you. Your thoughts on the DI and how do you see this?
Well, I think the DI is, quite an emerging sphere right now. And for us, uh, Anju had said, what gets measured gets improved. So we've been setting in a lot of benchmarks for us. And if you see, India as a country is extremely diverse. So if you see our population in the office, you have the entire diverse regions coming at one workplace. So for us, we have the employee resource groups as well. We have about 7 locations in India and about over 80 locations across the world. So you do have a lot of exchange of ideas. You do have a lot of innovation. We have ERGs like Women of PTC, the veteran ERG. We have people supporting work from home hybrid model. We have people supporting elderly care, caregiving opportunities. So we have these support mechanisms and benchmark practices at every aspect, at every move in your career. Our focus right now is also on generational diversity. So we have expanded our internship program. We are, so our intake for interns has gone up incredibly over the last year. And we are looking to welcome them next month. So I think that is something, we're planning to put in place, a reverse mentoring program, because I think today's Gen Z, there is so much to learn from them. I mean, last year we had done a short program with them where they had to speak about their expectations from today's organization. And it was an eye-opener, I think, from where we all started our careers and how these kids today are expecting workplaces and organizations to help them. I think there is a tremendous leap and bound, jump. So DI, yes, it's a continuous process. It's an ongoing process. You need to embed that in your DNA fabric. And PTC has the entire DI aspect also embedded in its values. So we time and again remind people, especially during periodic conversations, appraisals. So everything is tied down to our values and the DNI aspect. And of course, we've been a part of the Avatar journey for the last 5 years, and this is the 6th year that we are participating. And I remember the first year that I had joined and I had to fill out the questionnaire. So it was such an exhaustive questionnaire. It took me almost a month and a half to fill it up. But it just reminded us of so many parameters, right from recruitment to succession planning to performance management to safety, security, flexible working, and through COVID, how we have navigated our way. So I think it's a very, very comprehensive study. So thank you so much, Avatar.
Thank you, Maitli. And we have heard this from so many people. The first time you take a look at it, it scares you, but then it becomes your friend. In a sense,
Absolutely.
it sort of guides you in terms of the so many possibilities. That's what we intend to do. There's so many possibilities, and I think these are also coming from what other companies are doing. So I think the question itself is a learning journey. It sort of makes the organization organizations think in terms of what can be done. And also, it's not just you go on doing it because it is there. You also, one of the biggest outcome of the study is the benchmarking, right? You're doing it because others are doing it and what has been the impact. And therefore, you then decide whether you want to go out and sort of implement an initiative or not. I think that's the good. Thanks for bringing it up, Maitri. Another thing that I really heard, one thing that we are really going to discuss, as Sandeep spoke about the DNA, culture building is going to be very critical. You spoke about what measure gets done. I think that's another important in terms of any organization. While they build the culture, it is very important to put those metrics and start tracking them and measuring them. And that's another big takeaway, Maitri. Thank you. So, Iman sir, over to you. As we all know, City against, just like Maitri spoke about, right? It's just not in India, it's a global organization, right? Across different continents, different countries. You also have your own sort of a global vision. I'm sure there is also an India vision. India is also very distinct and diverse by itself. Very the kind of diversity that we have in India, the kind of culture is very distinct, and therefore you really need to sort of bring this together, the global vision as well as an India specific vision, Vimal. So over to you in terms of what you think about DA and how do you manage this sort of diversity at City?
Thanks, Karthik, and we love our association with Avtar, and that will continue because there's a lot of insights that we gain out of it. So, so having said that, I think what diversity, equity, inclusion for us really is, it's very innate to us, right? Like Maithili and Chandil spoke about how it's in our DNA, how it's in their DNA, it's in our DNA as well, right? So it's very innate to us. Creating an inclusive workforce and equitable workplace is a consistent choice that we make day in and day out, because we truly believe that, and we've seen, right, and multiple research has also kind of substantiated the fact that the more diverse an organization, the more the innovation comes, the more the profitability, the more the bottom line, right? So that's been proved again and again. So the way we look at diversity, equity, inclusion at City globally, and of course in City India as well, is it's a three-pronged lens, right? So it is important for our employees because if there's no diverse or inclusive culture, they will not be empowered enough to bring their authentic selves to work, right? So which is absolutely critical for us. So it's important from an employee's lens. It is important for us as City because we're a global bank. We have a unique strength of diverse backgrounds, diverse perspectives from across the globe. So it's important for us to harness all of that. And finally, it's important for our clients and communities because the way we would want to be seen and we would essentially strive to look the way our clients and communities do, right? So by embracing a variety of views and experiences, we drive innovation and reinforce ethical business practices. So there's a lot of linkage that gets drawn between ESG and DEI for us, right? So it's in our ethos, and we truly believe that DEI is not good to do, but it's a must do, and it's foundational to our culture, how we do business. And that's why we proudly call ourselves the bank with a soul, right? So that's where it really comes from. And just to also put it out there, DEI in City globally across the world is seen as a business imperative, and HR supports it. So it's so ingrained in our business leaders' DNAs and how they work day in, day out, it becomes easier for us to support because our business leaders believe in it. So I think it's taken a while for us to institutionalize DEI across the globe, but we're there. But I also believe that it's a journey. So while we're there in terms of kind of doing great work across all of the different segments of DEI, I think there's still a long way to go.
I think you put that nicely in a sense. It's no more the nice thing to do, it's the must thing. It has to be done. And I think with this so much focus with respect to the ESG, the sustainable development goals that we're really talking about, and DA plays a very important, in fact, in all in all the three, which is E, S, and G. I think diversity has a real role to play there. Be it from the employee perspective, from the community perspective, from a customer perspective. I think because all the community as well and the customer that we really deal with as much as the employees on a day-to-day basis is truly diverse. Your products, the customers that they come from, the backgrounds is very different. And if you don't actually make it a business imperative, and I think it's a loss for everyone, I think, right? And so that's a great point, Mansa, right? While we want to do it, and I think we can't shy away from it. So DI is here to stay, and we really need to start learning to deal with it if you have not already started doing that. So thanks, Mimasa, for that point. Sandil, I'm just going to come over to you. You spoke about the DNA, and therefore actually really talking about making it as part of the organization culture, right? And when you really talk about an organization culture, it can't be done in so that it's done in a day or in a year, right? It needs a continuous practice, a sustained focus in terms of whatever that we really want to do, and complete sort of a belief in whatever the values that we really want to set out to do, right? And we also know that molecular collections, in terms of how it appreciates the entire aspect of diversity. And you also spoke about some of the benefits that you really got about, right, in terms of retention, the tenure having increased. But how do you really sort of build this culture of DEI within the organization?
Absolutely, Karthik. Rome is not built in a day, right? So it takes time. So when we look at DEI, right, it's not just having a diverse workforce. It's more of an organization, how we create a work environment where everyone is valued and empowered. So this is what DEI is. Something that we really initiated or we started with is we never went on to leave to achieve this, but we started with a small baby step, right? We started with identifying the ERG ESG groups, set up an ERG ESG groups, give them some focal areas what they have to concentrate with, right? From then on, right, and so we are a 2-decade-old company with 2,500 plus employee strength, right? And but we started this thing very late. But as a budding organization or an emerging organization, it's always easy to start it at the earlier stage where it becomes easy for them to adopt, right? And bring in inclusiveness at a very early stage itself. So that's one of the learnings that we got, because addressing the larger community, the bigger forum, it's more difficult. Bringing in everyone into the understanding, it takes time. So that's but when it's small, it's easy. So that's which relates to my experience in getting it here. When I say how I got this into our DNA, how we got this into our DNA is like just by taking a small step, right? Be it so then it over a period of time it fell on our lap, and now we are. I don't say that we are at scale 9 from 1 to 10. Still we are at 3, but we have a long way to go. But we are better. It's what we feel where when I come to the organization as a thing. The other thing what we encouraged was an open communication, be it at a leadership level, be it as an employee level, the junior most level, right? Where we want to eliminate the bias, we want to eliminate the discriminations, which has been part of the communications, which has been part of the meetings, which has been part of all our interactions. But with a periodic training, putting a kind of a moderator, a mentor part of every meeting, which has helped overcome these kind of things where it's been the moderator immediately abruptly stop those kind of communication and help that person tell them, okay, this is not the right way to discuss, and we go on. So these are some of the things which I can think of at this point of time. Right, which would help. I feel it would help the emerging companies to at least take 1 or 2 points what we have followed.
Thank you, Sandil. What I hear from you is it's important to take the steps, even though if it's small, measured steps. I think that's a good point to start with. Sometimes you see organizations or institutions take some ambitious goals and they actually fall
Yeah.
because they are not either ready for it, they have not put the necessary sort of infrastructure or the awareness within the organization, and therefore, but the goals are very ambitious. I think what I hear from you is the progress is very important. It's not whether you have to jump from one goal to another goal, but the progress, and even if it is small and measured, I think it is very important to make the progress as you actually start building the culture within the organization.
Exactly.
So Maithili, the one point that you really spoke about, and I want to go back to that in terms of matrices and what gets measured. But our organizations also face a lot of challenge. The moment you talk about matrices, then the question comes, is it a target that we're really talking about? What are we trying to do here? And we already have so many other matrices, business numbers to talk about, and then all those business urgencies and imperatives. Where would I actually do it, and how do we sort of look at the DNA goals, targets, and matrices? Maithili, I think there are some pushbacks that people have to deal with, specifically when you're starting your journey, and people would say, yeah, only now we are starting to talk about DEI, and you're asking us to now put some goals and matrices. So have you come across those challenges, and how do you deal with that, Maithili?
Yeah, so we are primarily a software development company and we hire a lot of mechanical engineers. So we face the challenge of hiring women in those roles because not too many women opt for mechanical engineering. And we have a lot of tenured employees as well here. So the average tenure of a PDC employee is anything between 8 to 10 years. So we had a lot of challenges in terms of explaining to them that, we need to have a perfect or a balance between the gender ratio. We've just recently, the past years, started taking in LGBTQI. So there was a lot of resistance there as well. We did our first Pride March last year and this year as well. So, so there were a lot of challenges in terms of accepting that. So we've done a lot of counseling sessions. We've done a lot of sensitization sessions for our managers and leaders. We have tried to link their goals to the diversity and inclusion aspect as well. So when we are talking about our PDC value, each and every value is also linked to the DI aspect. So we do a lot of surveys as well. We do a yearly annual survey and we do a softer survey in the month of May. We do an annual survey in the month of November. We make sure that everybody has understood what the larger goals of the organization are and what in terms of their business, what is it that they need to achieve, whether it is gender, whether it is generational, whether it is PWD, whether it is LGBTQI. So we have tried to include that as well. We also encourage them to, be sponsors of an ERG group. So we have a large ERG network spread across the globe. So we make sure that our business is also owning a part of the ERG. And we have these quarterly, initiatives run by every ERG, which we make sure goes to the nth employee and reaches the maximum regions. So this is something that we've done. In terms of PWD, and this is a very interesting case that we had. During COVID, we hired a girl. And it was only after we met her post-COVID and we had closed offices for 2 years. And today we work on a flex at PDC guideline, in the sense we work 2 to 3 days in the office and the rest work from home. So it was only 2 years later when we saw her in person, we realized that she doesn't have one arm. And that didn't hinder her performance at all. And that kind of changed the entire aspect of looking at a PWD hire as well. So the goals, the measures are linked to your performance appraisal as well for each and every manager and leader.
Thank you, Maithili. I think what you're saying is, how do you sort of link it to the performance of the manager or leader, making DI a core sort of a KRA metric that needs to be tracked, and people are also evaluated based on just like any other leadership skills or leadership goals that you have. Thanks, Maithili.
Yes, I
for this.
think, whatever is made accountable, people have that kind of responsibility towards it.
Absolutely. And talking about accountability, Mimamsa, I'd like to ask you this question. In a sense, you spoke about institutionalizing DEI within the organization. And I believe that I think leadership plays a very important role in that, right? When you want to sort of drive it within the organization, the top-down approach is very critical. So can you just elaborate in terms of how the leadership role becomes very important in us? How can leaders actually drive, and on how we can actually, as DI leaders and practitioners, how do you actually help them sort of drive this, Mimamsa?
Okay, so that's a very elaborate question. I'll try to be as succinct as possible. So I completely agree with everything that Maithili called out in terms of keeping it accountable, keeping it data-driven. We believe, and again, we also believe that anything that gets measured gets done, right? So institutionalizing anything, DEI or a performance management practice, anything at all takes time. It takes time, dedicated effort, energy, right? So the first thing that you do if you want to institutionalize a culture of DEI is get your leaders on board, right? So for example, and I'll give an example as I go along this, right? So for example, we run reverse mentoring programs for our LGBTQI plus colleagues, for our PWD colleagues, and also generational reverse mentoring program, right? But I want to focus on the first two. Now, the way these work is our out and proud LGBTQI plus colleagues or disabled colleagues are, and when I say disabled, I also cover neurodiversity here, so seen and unseen disabilities. So they are essentially mentors to very, very senior leaders in the organization. These are your regional heads, cluster heads, product heads, right? So what are the themes that get discussed as part of some of these programs? Allyship, understanding individual behavior. How do you encourage team members to bring your authentic selves to work, right? So some of these are core to any of the mentoring or reverse mentoring programs that we run. So essentially, we're creating that culture top down where we're making allies of our very senior leaders, right? That's one. Second is Citi has globally declared, we did so in 2022, and our next target is for 2025. These are aspirational diversity representation goals. We say aspirational because we are an equal employment opportunity organization. So this is what we aspire to do, but we'll not forego on merit when we're looking at diversity, right? So these goals are set for women globally. These goals are set for, and then obviously those goals percolate to countries. These goals are set for LGBTQI plus colleagues. These goals are set for anybody who is underrepresented. So from a more US construct for race, for socioeconomic goals, etc. Right? So and all of these goals are at our highest level leaders scorecard. So Jane Fraser, who is the Citi Global CEO, has a goal of this in her scorecard, and then it percolates down to the junior most people manager, right? So that's how we institutionalize DI from a qualitative as well as a quantitative perspective. Outside of this, Maithili spoke about it, but I want to reiterate is that we also do an annual survey, right? It's an employee survey where there's a very elaborate section on DEI and how it's perceived internally, so that we can hear from our employees directly and make those changes. And every single people manager who has a team, they're held responsible for all of these scores, right? So they need to ensure that they do better in the next VOE, correct? So that's how it works. And finally, the last piece that I want to leave you with is, see, while you may be starting off on your DEI journey, I think the way we look at talent is fairly largely clear in most organizations, right? You'd run your own talent programs, etc. Ensure that there's a section on DEI and how important it is in all of your talent programs, right? Be it your senior most leader development talent programs or talent programs at junior to mid levels. Ensure you cover DEI everywhere, because that is how you institutionalize culture while holding your leaders accountable through data and in their goal sheets. So that's how I would recommend doing it.
Thank you, Mimamsa. I think what we heard from you is that, yeah, you may not even have a specific sort of a mandatory targets, but it's good to have aspirational goals, right?
Correct.
And those are very important for us to really aim and start working towards those aspirational goals or the objectives that we really talk about. and also ensuring that is very top down. It sort of cascades from the top to the junior manager level, and therefore it gets tracked at every level in terms of the goals that you're really setting. I think great points, Mimamsa. And another one thing that I also looked at is how do you sort of make it DI as part of every activity that you do? Anything that you do, ensure have you sort of covered it from a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective, be it your performance appraisal, be it your meetings, be it a committee that you really form. Have you sort of factored in, right, the true aspects of DI in whatever activity that you really do? I think those are great points, Vimal. So thanks a lot for sharing. Senthil, I would like to come to you, and I think this is some tremendous work that has happened in your organization, and having sort of worked with you for quite some time now. I think you have close to 70% of diversity, right? And so could you please share how did you achieve that particular sort of a number? And I also understand you have programs which is Bangalore, but you also taken the organization to the tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? And so if you could share some perspectives on that, that'll be really great.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Karthik. We are represented by 74% of women, right? It's a conscious decision of our management to become inclusive and to empower the weaker sections, right? I'll just give you how it got triggered. It was more of article which triggered him to look into the tier 4 villages. I'm not saying tier 4 cities, it's more of a village where in spite of people doing their PGs and we being in the STM domain, people doing PGs and doctorate, for lack of opportunity, they get into the menial jobs, be it housemaid or getting into the farmland as a laborers for daily wages. So this triggered instinct, and then that's how the brainstorming started, and we started looking at setting up our extended centers in. I can say there are 2 centers right now we are operating. One is at Tirchangod village in Tamil Nadu, and there is another one called Rasipuram, which is nearest to Salem. So where almost 200 employees, all PGs, MSc, PhDs work there, and even in Rasipuram. See, we tried hiring them and bringing to tier 1 cities, but the retention was a challenge because these people tend to go back to their hometown for obvious reasons, be it marriage or their parents ill or grandmother ill or for elderly care, something of that sort. So that's where the decision came in. Okay, why don't we set up an extended center and make them work out of their locality, so that we have them, we empower them, and we have them retain for a longer period. We give them a steady income where they will also sustain and they grow in this organization. So that's the what you call the story behind we setting up this unit, right? When now how do we sustain, right? We got people now. Again, the challenges are the same, like maternity, post maternity. How do we think? So there are some policies we can. Though we haven't drafted it as a policy, but we give them as an extended guideline thing, where we extend them, we give them a unpaid sabbatical even up to a year without pay, with a commitment to take them back. That's one thing. We give them the hybrid model of working beyond 6 months to 6 months after post coming back to or returning back to the work. We also have a work as you earn kind of a program where the amount of hours you put in your effort, for that you get paid. So those kind of things are really helping them to sustain and continue, and they come back and come into a full-time employee or work as and stick on for a longer period post they come back. So these are some of the things that I can think of, right? And we also have that very active ESG, ERG groups functioning around that area where identifying a crash or elderly care locations, managing, supporting them in pre-maternity or post-maternity cycles, even to the elderly care areas, right? Similarly, we give, it's not only exclusively for women folks, but we also give paternity breaks to male men. Along with paternity, we also give them the flexibility of working from home and supporting their elderly parents or the wife during this period. So that's these are some of the things that I can think of which has what you call made us stand out amongst our competitors, and we are striving to become more inclusive as we grow. Karthik.
Thank you. Maitli, when we spoke about, you spoke about, you plan to hire a lot of people from the mechanical, but, engineering side. And there are various initiatives you spoke about. I think you spoke about women mentoring circles. And, how do you sort of build the talent pipeline for you, right? One, an area where you don't have enough talent or people, yeah, today we see a lot of women actually choose the mechanical engineering, but do they get into this? Probably they get into coding, right? So that's something that we see. But how do you sort of build the talent pipeline, Maitli, for you, for your
So,
organization?
so we have done a lot of succession planning workshops, and we ensure that women in our organization, we identify them. We're also doing a PTC lifts program. So this has identified about 15 women across the business, and we are training them to be future leaders. And in terms of our placement and intern services also, we have about an 86% intern conversion ratio. So we've been reaching out to mechanical engineering colleges. We've been doing a lot of campus placements for them. And we're also encouraging women to take on mentorship roles. So we have a dedicated R&D mentorship program. This is the second season this year. And this is an exhaustive program of about 8 months where women nurture women. So that is something that, we've been focused on. So PTC lifts, mentoring programs. We're doing a lot of engagement sessions. So we've started this new session called She Leads. And we do it once a quarter. And this is on a wide array of topics. So in fact, during COVID, we had picked up an interesting topic of the power of the red lipstick. So we had, women wear red lipsticks and encourage each other in terms of navigating through, tough times. So this is something we've done. But yes, I agree that building the talent pipeline is always a challenge for us because the women in the mechanical engineering sphere are very, very difficult. So we do a lot of diversity hiring drives, reaching out to colleges, branding ourselves across. So that's a constant struggle for us.
Yeah. Thank you. I think the building of talent pipeline is very critical today, and specifically where you really want to they have the momentum going. And it's basically working at the grassroots level as well, going to colleges, education institutions, looking at the diverse talent pool that we can actually tap into, right, beyond the regular streams through which we really hire. I think that is going to be a very big differentiator. Just like how I think Chandil and team, you've gone to the tier 2, tier 3 cities, taking the workplace closer to their homes and see how we can truly build the diversity within the organization. Remember, I'm sure there's so many things that you do at City, right? And we have heard a lot about your maternity flex programs, the reverse mentoring. If you could, great if you could share some of those initiatives, the ones that we launched recently, and the kind of impact it is making to the solid foundation that City has laid in the last so many years, Mimansa. If you could share some insights into those programs, it would be really great.
Absolutely happy to do that. So, so City in 2023 launched this program called Maternity Flex. It essentially enables our female colleagues who are going on maternity leave of 6 months to work from home for a period of 12 months. And they're also kind of, they can also work from home in their last trimester, right? Just to be on the safer side if the doctor asks for it. So essentially this policy came about as a as a two-pronged approach, right? One is because there was a lot of attrition related to women going on maternity leave and not coming back, right? Post-COVID. So we kind of figured out that we did not see this trend during COVID, partly because women who were caregivers, who were in caregiving responsibilities, who were expecting at the same time, etc. Given that there was flexibility to work from home, we did not see that kind of attrition trend, which then kind of spiked up post-COVID. So to address that, and we've been able to successfully address that, our attrition is now in the lower single digits when we talk about this cohort, right? So we have achieved what we had intended to and set out to do. When we talk about maternity, we also have this guideline. It's not a policy per se, but it's adhered to almost 100% of the time, and it's specifically a City India guideline where where the ratings for women employees who are going on maternity leave or are coming back from maternity leave are largely protected. They get an average of the last 2 years. It's a weighted average formula, so they get a weighted average of last 2 years ratings. Because again, we used to see that it was very easy for managers to just rate anybody who's going on maternity leave, or even a father who's gone on a longer paternity leave or post that 1 month of paternity leave, and it was very easy for the manager to dock their rating, saying that, hey, they've not worked for half the year, we're not going to give them the rating. But now to change that mindset, we actually came out with this guideline. This has been 100% enforced since the last 4 years, right? So we're taking those strides when it comes to maternity. We're doing a lot around menopause education. We're doing so this is from a gender perspective, right? We're doing a lot around the reverse mentoring programs that I spoke about. So we're doing a lot around LGBTQI plus people with disabilities. We do these focus group discussions on a quarterly basis with colleagues with disabilities, where you learn these innate things about their needs that you would have not even thought of, right? So for example, if there's a colleague on a wheelchair, they need somebody's help all the time to swipe in and swipe out, because your swipe out at the doors are placed at a high level. So these things can think of, but when you do these conversations on ground, you kind of understand the needs and requirements, and obviously then you work towards kind of simplifying their lives, right? Because we're trying to build an equitable culture, not an equal culture. There's a huge difference in that. So so we keep on reinventing the wheel. Like MatFlex, if I talk about it, we are one of the first not just in the industry, in the country, right? So we keep on reinventing the wheel. We keep on identifying newer things to do, and obviously a lot of that also comes from the Avtar studies that are shared with us, right? Because they're very rich in data, but they're also very rich in the qualitative initiatives that the organizations run, where some of the newer or emerging enterprises can take cue from.
Thank you, Mimamsa. In terms of, I think one thing is, the innovation is a very key here, and every organization needs to sort of have its own way in terms of dealing with it. We have three or different organizations here. I think there is a large technology that's a critical part in all the three organizations, right? We're all into information science and information technology, leverage technology so much, but huge, very unique organizations, right? In terms of the context, the culture, global, Indian, and global and Indian. So I think every organization needs to find its own way in terms of, while we can learn from others, but I think there is something that you really need to sort of dwell deeper and think in terms of making it your own, to really make it a success. I think that's going to be very critical for any organization, really. So it's just not about going and saying, okay, replicating what others are doing. You learn from others, sort of take an inspiration from others, and I think it's good to emulate what others are doing. I think that is really going to be key in terms of any organization really wants to follow others. We are, I think, at 5:45. We're coming close to the discussion. There is one question that I really wanted to ask, right? And but we'll end with two questions, because somebody has asked, can you share the first aha moment experiencing the impact of DA focus? So that could be very personal to each one of you, right? So one, I think I would really like you to share one aha moment from your experiences. Could be as could be an individual experience as part of your role that you do. It will be really nice. And with that, you could also share about how to see this entire DI in the future. Right. Any thoughts are welcome. I think there's so much we are hearing about what's happening in the US, in the Europe with respect to DEI. Some of the conversations are disturbing. Some of the conversations could be challenging from a DA perspective. Right. So if you can, I'll share your thoughts in terms of one aha moment and what do you see the future of DEI?
I think in terms of the future of DEI, I think we should restrain ourselves from the DEI fatigue, because everybody is talking about it, everybody is going through it. Whatever works in the West, whatever works across regions may not work in our country. So make it very, very personalized. Make the entire journey customized to where your effort is or where your goals are. What probably so there was a revolution around Black Lives Matter, but this is not relevant in the Indian context. And what may be relevant in the Indian context may not be relevant across. So make it very, very customized to your own focus areas. I think that is very important. Aha moments, we've had a lot of them. So I think personally, I have moved from the mountaineering, career to the corporate. So I think that navigating through that and, probably, so I've had a lot of aha moments when it came to mountaineering, especially when you're summiting a mountain, reaching the top and, just hosting the national flag. I think that's a complete aha moment. And you have such people from different backgrounds, trying to achieve one simple goal that we have to summit this particular mountain. So I think that's been an aha moment for me.
Thank you. I think there's a lot of collaboration and teamwork that's required with different people to really
absolutely. There's a lot of effort. And HMI primarily is an institute that takes a lot of people from the defense forces. I come from a defense background myself. So training with, and when I had done my first course, I was the only female in the entire course, and everybody was from either the Army, Navy, Air Force, BSF, CRPF. So training with them and was very, very challenging. I remember I was sent back the first time that I couldn't do a tiger push-up. So I was sent back. The second time I went, I was sent back. It was the third time I went and I got my A degree course, certificate. Then I went on to do advanced mountaineering. Then I went on to do method of instruction and I went back to the same institute as an instructor. So I kind of shattered that stereotype that women cannot do it.
Absolutely. I think, Maitli, you're a role model from a very individual and a personal point of view to overcome some of the challenges, some of the things that we feel people think that cannot be done, Maitli.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your experiences. Memanta and Sendil, any thoughts? The way it could be, as I said, two things that you could share. Any aha moment for you, and how do you see the DI progressing?
So if I were to talk about my aha moment, and when you read out that question, I think that was the first thing that popped in my mind was we were doing this global so it's Pride Month. So first of all, happy Pride, everyone. So we're doing this global Pride month related huge town hall. We had our global leaders here and everybody across the globe was attending. And there was an employee who in India, because it was happening from India, there's an employee who had the courage to, in that meeting in front of everybody, he had the courage to say that he's a proud member of the Pride community, right? And that is when it hit me that as long as all of us continue to do our bit to make sure that our workplace is inclusive, we'll kind of give more and more power to people from underrepresented communities. So I think the fact that he was able to come out in such a large forum means that he trusts the organization, trusts the people that are listening in on the call, even though he's not met them, right? So I think that was one aha moment that DI actually matters. And the second one, really, the question around the future of DI, I think while representation matters, and absolutely critical to get the right set of people in. I think it's equally important, and probably more so, to ensure that you're creating an inclusive culture and a workforce. So I think the needle will move. We'll keep on, obviously, we'll keep on, everybody should keep on focusing on representation, but what happens after they walk in that door, I think that will continue to become more and more critical when we look at the future of DI.
Thank you. I think inclusion is going to be the
Correct.
important aspect of it, whoever it is, wherever they come from. I think that is going to be very critical.
Yep.
Sendil, to you.
Yeah, so if you look at the future is going to be complex. It's not going to be as simple as what we have been dealing with the DEA so far. You can anticipate lots of pushbacks, be it legally, politically, whatnot, right? Now, from the things are shifting from physical safety, physical security to your psychological safety, psychological security kind of atmosphere, or thinking like that. More of inclusiveness into more diverse neurodiversity we can talk about, like be it autism, dyslexia. So those kind of things might come in, but it might not be applicable and can be adopted by every organization. But there will be a push, is what from a DEA perspective we could foresee that. To sail through these challenges, the management and the people, the HR fraternity or the DEA leaders should be agile, need to be dynamic to adopt changes, right? Embracing latest tools and technologies, right? Tracking and analytics is going to play a great role, right? And an open, transparent communication would help them also to overcome some challenges and see to make further progress in the new DEI area. So this is the trends that I could foresee as an HR person. When you ask me aha moment in the DEI, associating with Avtar was one of the moment, because every year I see that progression, because the insights and inputs that we get and the data while filling these things, we feel, okay, oh, why don't we do this? So first year it's not there, second year, why can't we do this? It becomes a kind of an benchmarking informations that we get year on year to grow up. So that's from for the past 6 years, climbing up the ladder from bottommost position to a top tier organization in this area. It's really an aha moment in the DA concept for me. I'm thinking.
Thank you so much for all your time. I think it's been very interesting. I think there's definitely some interesting takeaways. Some of the things, like, putting the basics in place is very important. Focusing on the culture, focusing on have some aspirational goals. It's good to have those goals. Institutionalize them in terms of sort of making it top down, making the leadership accountable, right? And I think one of the things that Sendil also spoke about is it can be even small measures, right? But make those progress. It is very critical to move forward. And I think it's also very important, the customization part, which is making it unique to your own organization, right? Look at the context, look at where you are in your journey, and therefore sort of build a plan which suits you and which works for you. And those are some very interesting takeaways. And this is something that we try to sort of achieve or provide through the best company study, right? So all the companies actually coming together, sharing their best practices, sharing the data, and therefore we are able to learn from each other is one critical aspect of this. And we are hoping that with this initiative, and we are extending it to the smaller organization as well, because today, if we really want to make, and specifically from India's standpoint, right, you really want to ensure that if India's true have to reach the 50-50 gender balance, it can't be just the large organizations that we have today in front of us, but the smaller organizations. I think they are also huge employers, and employers just not in the metros, in the smaller cities, smaller towns. and they really need to sort of see the value of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they sort of imbibe that culture and provide opportunities to those underrepresented talent that we are actually talking about, not just from the gender perspective. I think it could be person with disability, people from the LGBT community, different generations, even from the army as well, right? So we have people from the arms background, army background, navy background. I think we really have over to the community, to the country as well, to really make it inclusive for all, and ensure that our workplaces, irrespective of the size of the organization, irrespective of the industry, is welcoming for everyone. Right. So thank you so much for your time, Mimamsa, Chendil, and Maiti. It was truly a very interesting conversation. And I wish you all the three the best in terms of your journey with respect to DEI and to the organization as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, and I look forward to meeting you in Chennai again.
Yes, Maitli, definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chendil.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karthik. Thanks
Bye.
for giving us this opportunity. It's awesome interacting with people. Good to hear from you guys. Very nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.